In this video I'm going to show you how to bind the Turnigy Evolution to the Mobula7 mini quad. I've been flying my 5-inch quad with the Evolution for quite some time, and recently I bought this Mobula7 and seeing if I could get it to fly with the Turnigy Evolution, because I think it's quite a nice radio. In order to do that, you'll first have to set up a new model in the Evolution. You go to settings, and down below you go select model. This is model number 1, and simply to add another model to it, you just increase this by number 2. I've already set it up for the new quad, but it is probably something like a default blank setting when you start a new model. In this case, if I were to add another one, it would say model 03, so yours is probably model 02. So you select that one, go back, it says yep, select. So now we're waiting to bind with the receiver on the Mobula7. The bind option is in here as well. So in the menu you have RX bind, and when you press that, it'll attempt to bind with the Mobula7. I'll just leave it like that for the moment. To bind with the Mobula7, it is quite unfortunate, but you have to undo the canopy in order to expose the bind button, which is a tiny little button right here. I'm not sure if the camera will show you that. But it's a small square silvery thing with a circular push button in the center. The Mobula7 that I got is the FlySky version, and the bind procedure is somewhat different. So in this case I'll have to hold down the bind button while I plug in the USB port, in this case to my nearby laptop. It is not required that you plug in any batteries for the bind process. So I'll press the bind button and I'll hold that pressed. I'll bring this close as well. So I now have the bind button pressed in. I push in the USB ports of my laptop. Here we go. So now this flashing means that the Mobula7 is in binding mode and it awaits bind instructions from the receiver. So when I click on RX bind on the Evolution, it says binding OK, and the blinking stops, and it is now paired. Now comes the question of how to set up all the various endpoints, the fail-safes, all these other things to make the quad behave the way you want to. And as you can see, when I turn the radio off, the receiver on the Mobula7 instantly notices that something is not connected anymore, and it will start flashing. But the flashing is different, so you'll see that there's a difference between flashing of the binding mode, which is faster flashing, and the flashing of simply receiver transmitter connection lost. And if I turn on the radio again, now it's solid again. So there you go.